Okay, we'll go ahead and get started with the planning meeting. First item on the agenda is public comment concerning any issue that's not on the agenda. If you're here for an agenda item, we'll talk about it when it comes up, or if you have any public comment, now's the time. That's what this is reserved for. John?
Heard anything more on this, on the state and the irrigation water?
I haven't heard.
Okay, I got some little flyer in the mail from the Gordon group and.
I got one too.
Did you? All right.
So that rumor has been going around for a while about the state adjudicating water.
Yeah.
And I think that there are more people on board with that now. I've heard the state's hired 16 or 18 people towards that end.
See if everybody's using their water or not.
So
Yeah.
definitely they'll be looking at county-wide, probably statewide,
Yeah.
but in particular this county. Looking at there's a lot of agricultural land that's been changed over to different use, so no longer will qualify for that ag water. So that's what they'll be looking at.
John, who's the Gordon group?
The party group up here, then in town.
Corbin,
Oh,
he sent out mailers, I think, to everybody that had a water right in the valley. Didn't he? Oh, because you probably have Daniel.
I do.
Yours is
Mine's
Daniel.
Daniel.
Yes,
was mine.
you got one too?
Mine's down, I didn't get one. Just very special
You
again.
are your
I
special.
didn't get one either. Oh, good, jam.
Your table.
You guys have to get your mouse.
Don't start to get something like
Yeah,
that.
so there'll be probably be more talked about
No,
that.
I can't read. Little sweet.
That's been in the works for a long time.
He's got the same,
I have a
same
question.
Yes,
Who in the world designed that road at the end of 3000 South?
Yes.
They've messed it up. And we want it fixed.
good question or statement.
All of the above.
Are they supposed to line that up?
I thought they were supposed to line it up. I thought that was our agreement.
That was a Mike Peterson property, so I'm sure it was his engineer.
One other thing brought to my attention, being a neighbor, is possibly maybe a few more speed limit signs on 3000 south there.
The people that can't read still don't read.
They're building a fence.
Did anybody notice the new one put in down by the county? When you turn off on 3000 South? New speed limit sign?
Off of 189?
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, that one stands out pretty bold. That's a good one. Another item, Shelley, on yours is on January 2nd or 3rd, I think it's the 3rd. There's a public hearing regarding that development where that new intersection's been built. And so they're looking at redesigning and vacating a portion of the road
Oh, no?
of 3000 South.
And when's this meeting?
Is this in Charleston?
It is in Charleston, so it's a public hearing. I believe it's January 3rd. Might be the 2nd one.
So is that where we go complain that it didn't line up
Yes.
with ours?
Yes, that public hearing will be for that development.
Okay.
Weather vane development is what it's called.
No.
So we're in charge of our side.
Well, I thought you guys had an agreement, but
We
I
had
guess-
an agreement with UDOT,
Oh,
but I don't know, somebody didn't follow it.
yeah.
They forget. New guy?
Okay, any other public comment? Get started. Second item on the agenda, Troy Anderson. Here, requesting conditional use, he turned in an application. Want to address the commission? All right. So you want to share one, huh?
I have drawings, which would probably better explain what we're doing. I brought some bigger ones if you'd like it bigger than 11 by 17. But this is, we are proposing a new Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints Ward building at the top of Ranch, I apologize, is it Ranch Road or Ranch Drive?
Yeah.
Just east of the new school. some of this is just fluff, but it kind of helps you understand what we're doing. So the first page tells you what type of building. This comes off of the church's website, what's called an AEC website, Architectural Engineering. And so there are a couple different Granger-style buildings. So the one that they're proposing is the Granger 300. It's a meeting house. So that's where I have the red oval. It's the third from the left. So that will give you all of the information as far as square footages and that kind of stuff for that particular building. The Granger 300 is a relatively new building style. It's not one that you're probably familiar with, although it hasn't really, changed much from the traditional church that we're all familiar with. But they tweak them every once in a while. So there is a typical elevation, and again, that came directly from the church website. That's not necessarily, those aren't the colors that we're proposing. We just wanted you to kind of get a feel for what it looks like from the outside. There is a floor plan, and if I can pat myself on the back a little bit, the very good looking site plan is mine on the end. So that is the site layout and parking, the proposed parking layout. Now, we have talked to Heber City about Wheeler Road. And they want us to extend Wheeler Road to the east, the full width of our property. And so that's what you see there, and that's why there's a little cul-de-sac on the end. So it'll basically be a turnaround, just like what they have in front of the elementary school now. Because Wheeler Road won't go all the way to the highway just yet. Eventually, I think that's what they want to happen, but it's not happening just yet. Both access drives are off of Wheeler Road, as you can see. So there is no vehicular connectivity between Daniel and Heber City, this particular site. And the reason we picked the site, we actually were looking at a site on 3000. The church prefers, it doesn't have to be, but they prefer a sewer connection. And so that's why they picked this site, because there is a sewer line in Wheeler Road that we can then connect to, which is why we've been talking to Heber City, because it's their sewer line. But the building itself will remain in Daniel. The utilities will come from Daniel. We'll just connect to Heber sewer system. And so that's basically what we are proposing. The standard meeting house has a parking capacity of anywhere, I think it's 180 to 220. But around here, they always bump it up to the max, so there's 220 stalls in the parking area. The parking layout is a little bit different than maybe what you've seen in the past. The church is starting to go to these long landscape islands in the middle of the parking lot, as opposed to the kind of the hammerhead ones on the end. It causes less issues with the snow plowing. They don't get quite as beat up, but it allows us to still have landscaping and trees and greenery in the parking lot. It helps to shade the asphalt a little bit and makes it a little bit easier for them to push snow. So now, I understand not everybody, this is what I do, and so it's easier for me to read plans and see what I'm looking at. Are there any questions that you have of what you're looking at? Maybe I can clarify. And again, I've got bigger plans if it would be easier to look at a 24 by 36 of this plan.
So what's the square footage of the building, the actual building?
It is
18,000?
18,326 square feet.
Very large.
Yeah, it's a pretty good sized building.
Have you got an extra print up there?
I have a couple extras if you'd like. For a nominal fee.
I do have the small map too that I printed off you sent me.
I've got an extra if anybody else wants to see, so take one down, pass it around. I've got, again, if you'd like to see, I've got bigger site plans if you want to look at these. You can spread them out here, you can take, I've got 2 or 3 of them so you can share.
Anybody else have one of these? You want one?
No.
No?
Technically, with a building this size, you probably only need about 4 acres. But this particular site is 5.54, and so there's gonna be some extra room. Yeah.
That's the elementary school.
Yep,
So,
it goes all the way over to the, I think there's a USDA or there's a government building, Forest Services out there.
Yeah, this is both of them.
Would this be completely fenced around
Yeah.
with no pedestrian access at all?
No, we'll probably have some pedestrian access. It depends on what we're told to do.
Yeah, 'cause I think the towns worked very hard on shutting that down,
Yeah,
so that there wasn't pedestrian access for the school for safety,
right.
and for Ranch Drive to have people drop off kids if you have access to
And
that.
so if you don't want pedestrian access, that's fine. That's great. Yeah. Yeah, so if we have a solid fence around Ranch Drive, then they're less likely to park. They'll have to go around and access that way.
That would be preferable.
You're talking solid fence versus chain link, so concrete type fence?
So it depends on what the planning department wants us to put in, so. Lots of times it's vinyl fence with masonry piers or chain link with vision slats. It just depends on what the preference is. The church doesn't really have a preference.
How much of the lot is left green after this building and this huge parking lot?
All of this
So I
is
see
green.
this, but
Yeah, that's
how
all
much
green.
is that? It looks like less than an acre.
I haven't
half
done
acre.
any calculations, but probably, yeah, I mean, with all the islands and the shrub areas and the shrub beds and those, you've probably got 1.5, 2 acres of green open space, actually.
You think? Okay.
Because it is 5.5 acres,
It's
so
actually 5 acres.
I thought it was 5.54.
I don't believe so, but I believe it's 5 acres.
That lot's slightly over, Pam.
Is that one?
Yeah, our survey says 5.54,
Okay,
so.
fair enough, stand corrected.
And you can see, I mean, there's quite a bit of open space, not only to the south, but there's quite a bit of open space around the building. And
How many people come and go in this kind of facility?
It's most heavily used on, obviously, Sundays.
Okay?
And with the new block, I think they start now at 9. It's probably the earliest that they're gonna go.
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
9 o'clock in the morning.
Okay,
And it'll be probably 9 to 5 or 9 to 6 on Sundays. And then in the evenings, there are youth activities. And so it'll be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays typically. You'll have young men's, which is scouts, young women's, that kind of stuff. And so they come and they drop their kids off and the kids get together. And so, I mean, it's used, but it's not heavily used on the week.
and how many people do you think come and go, driving in and out, letting their kids off? Can you guess? 100 cars a day,
I have no
200
idea.
cars a day?
I'm not sure what the activity rate is like here. I can tell you, I mean, there's probably a lot of members here, so it's hard to know with the specific building. The building that I attend is a stake center. It's a little bit bigger. So that one's,
This is,
this is just
This
a
is
ward,
a
this is a
ward,
ward
yes.
building, so it's a little bit smaller.
okay.
And so it just kind of depends on the level of activity, who carpools, how far people are gonna be, are they gonna be walking in, are they gonna be driving in? There's a lot of variables, so it's hard to quantify that.
So are we talking about how many wards in this? Because I've understood wards are somewhere in the neighborhood of 200 families.
Yeah, wards are anywhere, again, this is church, it depends on just the area, but usually 500 to 600 people in a ward, depends on if it's an area is growing, and that's where they max out. So probably 3 wards, maybe 4 wards, but 4 wards is usually the max. Again, things are in flux for those that are members. They know right now the block that they meet in has gone from 3 hours to 2 hours. And so that overlap, there might be a little bit different overlap, but probably there's only going to be 4 wards max in a building because of those youth activities. On the weekday, there's only so many evenings that you can have young men's and young women's. And so it's usually Monday is out, Sunday's out, so it's going to be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then they don't really like to do it on Friday just because everybody's out on, having fun on Friday. And so usually 3 wards, maybe 4 wards in a building at the most.
So how many people is that about? How many people in a ward?
In a ward before they split it, usually 500 to 600, depends on the area. Again, it just,
But
it
in
just
general
kinda
terms, because I
depends.
don't know these things. so-
Sure, so 500 to 600 people in a ward.
Typical.
Right, but
Right.
that's, but not, I mean, there's not 100% activity, so not everybody's going, so it's hard to say.
Wouldn't that be women, men, and children at 500?
Yeah, everybody.
Right.
Yeah,
Just to understand it, not
People.
500 families, or
500 people, individual
500
people.
people.
Yeah, yeah.
It only holds 214, so.
no, yeah, chapels.
Oh, I see.
So,
Okay,
at the chapel on Daniels Road currently, there's maybe.
The relatively new one there, that's,
Right.
yeah.
There might be 20 cars on the week, on like a, tonight, like when, like our kids went to a youth activity, and there was probably 20 cars. That's usually about, that's about as much as you'll see, unless it's like a Halloween activity, where they're doing like trunk or treating, just to keep the little kids up, you know, that you might fill a parking lot for those big events, but apart from that, like weekends, the youth activities are 20, 30.
And they do tend to be adult supervised. It's not like drop the kids off and there is adult supervision.
The church tends to be a pretty good neighbor. I mean, they're not too disruptive of neighborhoods, so.
It is in a residential neighborhood, so it's pretty concerning to the residents that
Right.
live there of the impact that it might propose versus one home, which might have, who knows how many people, but one home is definitely a less of an impact than 500.
True, but it also provides public service too. so.
Of course, I understand. Any concern about the one entrance into the church from the neighborhood to the west? Would that be the only access in? Is there a safety concern or anything? Because that's one neighborhood road.
Onto Wheeler Road, you mean?
Yeah,
No, there aren't any concerns that we have. The road is actually, I think it's been widened fairly recently, hasn't it? It's a relatively wide road,
but that was put in when the school was put in.
yeah,
It wasn't right there.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't think the road currently extends past the Dull lot. It
No.
just goes to the, well, it doesn't even get into the cul-de-sac from us, it's just right to the school, correct?
Right to the
And then
property
you're proposing
line,
extending it down,
the full length of our property.
right?
Yep.
And that,
You can see a little
is
bit.
that is it the Shelton property out there? Have they agreed to sale
To
of
the
that?
north.
Where the road is right now, do you control that property between the RV, no, not lot, the RV resort and the backside?
That's the Shelton's property.
That's Shelton property, okay.
And that's just, so it's just an extension of that road. So I'm sure there's a road right of way
Yeah, I think
in
so.
through there. So,
There's not.
and the cul-de-sac, you can see that it is on our property. We're not forcing anybody to, pay for curb gutter and asphalt on their property. Heber City is going to put in the curb and gutter on the north side, and then the church will put in all the rest of the infrastructure. So that toned area, see how there's a little bit of a stripe on the road? It's about 15 feet wide, that's what Heber City is agreeing to put in, as far as curb gutter and then asphalt. And then the church will do the rest of the road.
On the north side of Wheeler Park
Yeah,
Road, Wheeler
yeah,
Road.
that kind of lighter gray area, that's what Heber City's putting in. North is up, so it's this gray area, that's what Heber City's gonna put in, and then we're putting in the rest of it.
What type of lights are necessary for safety of the area?
It kind of depends on what you want, actually. Some municipalities require a photovoltaic, plan, and we have to get an engineer and make sure that there's a 1-foot candle, whatever it is that they require. The church typically will have light poles around the perimeter of the building, just inside of the sidewalk. And I show them, they're not probably easily seen or understood. That's what all these there's little, actually I didn't put it in. But there will be light poles in the corners and probably light poles up here. And so on the perimeter, on the outside of the parking lot, is kind of entirely up to you guys. If you don't want a lot of light out there, then they won't put them in. They want it to be safe in the parking lot.
Sure.
There will be a light pack on the storage shed in the corner. There's a dumpster enclosure and a storage shed, and that's where the scout equipment goes and the ward, tents and flags and all the miscellaneous junk that they collect over the years goes. And so there will be a light pack out there, but that can be shielded, and all of the light poles and the light fixtures are shielded. So the light is concentrated down as opposed to just flooding everywhere. So they are very conscientious about that kind of stuff. They want it to be safe, but we also don't want it to be, to be flooding into the neighbors' windows and causing problems that way. We won't have any spotlights on the steep, any bright spotlights.
Is,
That's building code driven, not
Right.
your choice.
Yeah.
If you've adopted the building code will determine that.
Determine that, yes.
Yes, it will not.
question on the actual construction, are they gonna have a lot of heavier trucks coming in on Ranch Drive?
I think most everything's gonna be coming off of Wheeler Road. That's probably, and we haven't gotten to that point yet, but typically what you do is you have a separate plan that shows where the vehicles come in and how to clean off the vehicles and those kind of things. And so those access points will probably end up being off of Wheeler Road, because it would be easier for them to get in and out of, I would imagine.
Still having problems with the road or redone?
Yeah,
From before on the
still
storm.
unresolved, but that doesn't,
Is it-
we'll deal with that as.
Is it breaking up and you're having issues with the settling and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, we've got a number of issues with it, but, I mean, we can deal with that.
We'll make sure our section is good.
That's why I'm asking, because we've got problems.
And we'll engineer it to whatever standards, you want. Typically, it's 3 inches of asphalt, 8 inches of base, and then whatever sub-base we need. The geotech report will tell us what we've got out there, and they'll make recommendations as far as what the profile of the road would be. So
There's plenty of rocks, we grow the best rocks in the town.
So that should be a good road, good road base.
So the 4 wards, or 3,
Possibly, yeah. 3 or 4. And I'm not sure how many's gonna go in initially, I don't know. It may just be 1 or 2 to start with, and then the 3rd or 4th could come 5 or 6 years down the road. I'm not sure what's going on around here as far as growth is concerned.
So, and I don't disagree that the church is a good neighbor. The school, we're on that street. Several of us live on Ranch Drive. Several people that are not here tonight who are quite concerned that haven't yet built homes. It seems like we attract everything we want. We attract everything other than what we want, and that is a quiet, single street with 5-acre single home lots. That's our HOA.
Sure.
They had me, and others have done that, contact our attorney, and our attorney assures us that we have a lot of say in this, completely aside from what the town council might decide.
Sure.
The school was absolutely forced upon us because of a law that was changed, and we fought for certain things, and with the help of the town council, we controlled the traffic, but we couldn't stop the school. So far, we're really good at attracting very large commercial buildings for a lot of people that paid up to $500,000 for their lots to have a little quiet piece to have horses and dogs and retire, and that's been anything, it's been a constant thing.
Right.
So we're going to see high, what's the word I'm looking for? There's going to be a lot of resistance. I'll just tell you that, because I'm hearing from these people. And they're already, how much money do you need? And, that's how they feel, because we really want that street. I don't disagree that, this church is a great neighbor, because I've been next to wards in the past ward buildings, and the school has, they actually built in a little bit of a low profile, which was nice. But if you look along Ranch Drive, we've got weeds 10 feet tall. The road was severely damaged. We were told that would be fixed. It hasn't been fixed. It really made a mess. And now we have a very unsightly side outside their property, and they just, to this point, don't care about it. So we're gonna have to do something there.
What side
I
is
don't
it?
expect you would do that. That would be on Ranch, that's on Ranch Drive across, so the Dahl lot where it faces the east side of it butts up against Ranch Drive, across the streets where the school is.
Right.
You got a mess there.
But it's on their property, because I was
It's on their
thinking, if
property,
it's on the
they're not
Dahl
gonna-
side, then the
I've
church
asked them to.
will start taking care of it. But
Yeah.
it sounds like it's on the school.
It's not your problem. I wouldn't
Okay.
expect you guys would do that. I've seen that not be the case in other
Sure.
times. And it absolutely is, with all due respect, because I think you do a great service. We just have a lot of people that are very concerned about that.
Sure.
And they're telling us to line things up, they just don't want. It's not that they don't want a church, it's just that they don't
They
want
don't
more
want it there.
commercial buildings.
Sure.
Even the idea that the joke came up, and I don't think it's applicable, but, well, we'll put the chapel there this year, and next year we'll have the temple, because there's not a temple in Utah, in Heber Valley. But at some point, we want it to be a quiet street. A lot of us spent a lot of money, a lot of us have been there, didn't spend as much money, whatever, but we really want what has been taken away in chunks at this point.
Sure.
So I'll say that on their behalf.
Well, I mean, I understand your concerns. Do you think, because there's not going to be any vehicular access from Ranch Road, do you think Ranch Road will then be affected by having a church there? Because everything's going to come off of Wheeler, and there will be a solid fence, depending on what kind of solid fence you want. And I know right now that the real estate department for the church is talking to the homeowners association about the CCNRs and those kind of things, and trying to work out agreements.
I doubt they have, because we're here. This is
Okay.
me and her and
Oh.
her, and I don't have.
Well, I was told they were talking to you, they
Yeah.
were working it out, so. So we're, I mean, you know, the church is happy to do basically whatever to make adjacent property owners happy. In Lehigh recently, Lehigh's booming and there's a lot of building going on in Lehigh. And so Lehigh City mandates that it is a masonry wall, a solid masonry wall, precast concrete. They're painted on both sides, so it's not just pretty on our side, it's painted on the adjacent property owner's side. So there's things like that. I mean, if you want a chain link fence that you can see through, then we'll give you a chain link fence. If you want a vinyl fence with brick piers every 30 feet, we'll give you that too. It depends on what you want. And so the church is happy to do, you know, whatever within reason, obviously. And so we want to be a good neighbor. We don't want to cause anybody heartburn. We want to provide that service of having a building available to those that want to attend. But I understand, if you pay a lot of money, you don't want a whole lot of traffic going through there. But I specifically didn't, actually had a road, an access road off of Ranch Drive at one point in the early development. And somebody from real estate went, no, we probably can't do that. And so I went, all right. I thought, well, okay, I'll drive around, that's fine. So we're happy to do whatever.
Okay, any other questions?
Kent Shelton here.
Yeah.
We have the property that's in the estate. We've never heard anything from your department, real estate department, or anybody. And I have my annexation agreement that was, the agreement was at a certain point that we would share that road with the Forest Service. It appears from the layout of that road that it's all on the Shelton property, not to be shared with the Forest Service in our annexation agreement that we have dated in 2001.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of curious, as I go out and look at that, it looks like all the road is on me.
All I know is we're just going basically east with the existing road. So if you've got an agreement, we can work it out, and I'm sure, and if you don't want a road there, that's
Well,
fine.
I'd certainly like to talk before everybody draws it all out.
Sure.
And it seems like the parties, the school said, we want the road in front of us,
Right.
and the church is saying, we want the road in front of us, and I'm gonna be the bagman for the rest of the road, which ultimately this road will extend up to Highway 40
Eventually, that's what we're
eventually.
saying.
And there's a lot of issues if that road goes up. Who will bear the cost of an acceleration, deceleration lane? Who will bear the cost of snow removal through my property on that sidewalk for these
So
children who will walk back and forth to school and
your
to
property
church
is
and-
to the east of our property?
My
I'm trying to,
property is the Von Shelton property there that you've got the road drawn on.
okay.
And this is a first for us. I found this out. That's why I'm kind of curious why, you know, it's all drawn on me and.
Well, the
And,
road begins at the church's property line, the north property line, and then we've got a 5-foot sidewalk and a 5-foot park strip, and then the width of the road, and that layout was dictated by Heber City, actually. They said, this is how wide we want the road.
Oh,
This
okay.
is this is where the road's going.
I'm just
And I
curious
just went, okay.
why nobody's talked about, hey, this road needs to go all the way up, meet Highway 40.
They will eventually,
And,
they're not going to, because they don't want to make the church pay for the whole thing. And so, and I'm sure you're probably aware of it.
yes, they do.
Nobody wants to pay.
They would like to do that, but typically what they do is as developments come in, they make, and that's what Heber City is saying, is look, great, use our road, but if you want to have a church here, you have to extend the existing road to the east. And so every subsequent developer is gonna be required to do the same.
This is a little different than the agreement dated in 2001.
And so I didn't know there was an
And
agreement.
If there's a road right up here now, I may not be required to take that up. You've given me frontage on your road, I can put my business on the other side of the street. And so what I'm saying is, I think we kind of need to all get to the table here and
Well-
sit down and talk about this.
And this is just a
Before
really
Heber City
preliminary,
says, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, this is a preliminary design.
That somebody was asleep with a switch on that last road that ended halfway up to school and stopped short.
Right.
And so I'm kind of saying, hey, wake up, people.
Well, I met with the city planner, and with 2 city planners and also the city engineer, so they're aware of the road. And like I said, they're the ones that said, this is what we want you to do with the road. And I went, okay.
Okay, and here's another issue. I mean, that road cannot meet at an obtuse angle. Somebody's talking about the road down in Charleston's the same way. When they come up, they have to meet that highway at a 90-degree angle for traffic safety and everything else.
And I'm sure they will.
And does that mean they'll come on up and then take another swath out of my property to straighten that out, to have that meet the highway? I kind of, there's a lot of issues
Sure.
that I think need to be addressed with this, and not just everybody saying, I want to put the road in front of mine and nobody else. And you know, it's fine, you're gonna have the road in front of yours, but the road in front of yours will be on my property.
Okay. Well, we'll have to
And so
look
we
into
need
that.
to talk, I think that's what I'm saying.
We'll have to look into that. It's my understanding, and I think it's Heber City's understanding that there is a road right of way, but if you have an agreement
There is a
dated,
little right of way,
Right.
and it's pretty well spelled out. And so, you know, when you come in to become another party into it, I think we all need to sit down at the table and say, this is what I've got in my agreements, and
sure,
where's Heber City on this now?
right.
And I have no dispute that I think churches are great neighbors. They'd be a great neighbor to me out there.
Right.
But I just want to make sure that everything doesn't go in underneath the wire, that it needs to be brought up and addressed.
Well, the next step, as far as our office and as far as the church is concerned, is we are presenting to Daniel City.
Sure.
And we'll, you know, you'll let us know what you want. And then we are going to then present to Heber City. Because it is right on the border, the road is in Heber City. But this is the first step. And so it sounds to me like maybe the road concern that you have, which is a valid concern, would be more of a Heber City question once we get to that point
Well,
in the
they
development.
deferred to Daniel. They said that you folks were coming to Daniel.
Yeah, but that road is in Heber City.
Yes, it is.
So I think it becomes a Heber City with that road issue, is my understanding. Am I understanding that correctly?
No, and we've met with Tony and like you said, they've just kicked the ball down the road.
Yeah, I'd like to see an agreement, and, you know, how, it's mind-boggling how the school built at the end of a dead-end road out there, and this was slated, and everybody says, well, the school didn't want to touch that, we don't want a road down there, and from a public safety perspective, at some point, the road's gonna go through, and I just don't want to be the bag man to say, well, everybody's got theirs, so now it's yours. You're the last guy holding the sack. My agreement was development based, and I'm not development ready or don't anticipate that. So I do think that there needs to be some discussion about this road, ultimately, how it's going to get to Highway 40. There is preliminary design for a semaphore up there. Would make it safer for everybody. These people that live in the ranches would not even be affected by any traffic that come down that road. If it's fenced, they wouldn't even know that the church is occupied or unoccupied with the fence around it. But I do think it needs to be resolved with that issue.
We'd be happy to resolve the issue. Let me see if I understand completely what you're saying. When you're talking about holding the bag and the continuation of the road and those kind of things. It's my understanding with most municipalities, it's a very large expense to build their own road. I live in West Jordan, we're expanding like crazy. I live way out west, it's that exact same thing. The road gets narrow, it gets wide, it gets narrow, it gets wide, and it depends on who's developing and what's going on. And so I have a feeling that Heber City is probably in that same boat, and I don't want to talk to them or for them specifically, but I don't think they want to incur the expense of putting that road all the way into 40.
No, that's why we need to talk before.
And so that's
Because
why,
somebody will when we're all through.
well, and I think it's going to be
We need
the,
to see who blinks
well, that's,
when this happens, so
okay,
that.
I guess that's what I'm wondering is typically it's developers that do that. We're the developer, we're the next property owner, so we're extending that road the full width of our property. Isn't that a good thing? Isn't it moving forward
Yeah, it's
incrementally?
moving forward, but this is a road to nowhere for anybody else. You know what I'm saying? It's a
For the
road on my
time
property.
being.
For the time being,
Sure.
and it's like, okay, so if everybody wants to put the road just in front of their house, what happens to those parcels that don't? If you had parcels that were belonged to somewhere else and you said, no, this is not my road because it's not right in front of my property.
Right.
And that doesn't fly, it doesn't hold water, it needs to be resolved. That how are we going to get this from point A to point B all the way down through here? The schools was the same way. We only want to build so much of a road. That's why you got that no man's land up there at the top. That I don't know where the failure was, but somebody was asleep at the switch when that was designed to say, hey, this is kind of crazy to put this on this dead end and put a little bulb out so that they can turn around and get back down there. Now we've got this dead space. Somebody wants to put in a little road for theirs on up. And my agreement is that when I develop the property, I have to put the road in, but you've already put the road in. I may not have to have a road now because I can just put a curb cut out on the other side, can't I?
Sure.
So isn't this helpful?
But so what I'm saying is that we need to just talk about how this is going to happen so that everybody doesn't just say, well, I think my part was mine in front of me. Does that make sense?
Not particularly, but I understand your point.
I think it will.
No, I understand where
I
you're
think
coming
that's
from, but
the
we can't
issue,
we can't dictate that people put a road in just because we want a road to connect.
No,
The municipality is the one that we probably need to do that.
That's why we need to discuss. I mean, they gathered up all the impact fees for everything down in Wheeler Park, and then it's like, we don't want the road, who's gonna pay for that road? We're gonna make somebody else pay for the road, but we're gonna gather up all the impact fees. And I've got an agreement for a water easement down there, an irrigation easement, but nothing else. So that may have to come somewhere else. So I covered myself pretty well, I think.
Sure.
But I want some understanding so that we can kind of get at least a memorandum of understanding where this is going to go before it ends. And I'm not trying to be difficult, I'm just trying to be practical and do this in the best way possible. And I kind of wondered, well, gee, I wonder why I hadn't heard from these guys yet. We're going to draw it all up.
It's typically the real estate department that contacts the adjacent property owners.
Yeah.
I'm kind of surprised that they hadn't,
Okay.
so I'm sorry.
I do think it's worth mentioning too, that the fellow you're buying the lot from knew the full CCNRs of our HOA before they made that purchase. We had a specific discussion. We are not looking for anybody to come in here, buy a single resident lot and flip it commercial or to anything else.
Right.
And
And I think that's maybe what they're working through, or I thought they were working through it. So maybe they'll decide, you know what, this isn't a good site for us. So, but it's obviously not a done deal at this point. This is just still preliminary. They just wanted me to, this is that first step And we've done the basic layout, they just said, okay, now present it to the town of Daniel and see how they feel about it. And we're getting some good input, and the CCNRs might be one of those hurdles that the church may not be able to overcome. It may be something where they say, well, let's look at another site. Because there are a number of sites in the area that we've looked at, so.
I have to leave, I'll say, appreciate you giving great information. We'll take it back to our folks, because like I said, they couldn't all be here, but.
And I've got cards if you want to call me, and we can talk more about it. Again, I'm just kind of the low man on the totem pole, but I at least know who the higher men on the totem pole are, so.
Okay, any more questions?
I have a business card.
So is there an application that you filled out for a conditional use permit that
There
I just
is
haven't
indeed.
seen it? Okay,
It's
Yes.
right here.
okay, cool.
And I have money, not that that would sway you.
No, it would not.
So they filled out the application for a conditional use. The church is a conditional use in the RA5 zone.
Correct.
So that's what we're looking at tonight. They're looking to see if this is conditional use, if we accept this application, then he'll be meeting with Heber City about the sewer,
The road,
the road, all the issues will move
we
forward
can all meet together.
if you accept this application. So I was in the meeting with the school and the planner on the first part of that, and I was really surprised they didn't have you in that meeting.
So were they probably saying the same thing, that they're just gonna kind of kick the can down the road?
They
No pun intended, like.
didn't really say. He just said, we're not gonna do anything with it right now, is what Tony said. So,
And so I was pleasantly surprised that they said they were gonna put in a little bit of the road themselves. Lots, again, because the church oftentimes will have to put in the whole width of the road, curb and gutter
Yeah.
on both sides, but at least Heber City said they were gonna do some of it, so.
which is, when you say that's on your property, that's really kind of weird. They're gonna come on your
Yeah.
property and build a road. They're doing your side. City is.
My side isn't on the Forest Service.
That's true.
Wouldn't you normally purchase the property from this gentleman?
I didn't know that the road was on your property, to be honest with you.
Sounds like to me this assignment that he has need to be brought forth to
The
Heber
agreement.
City.
Yeah, we'll discuss it with Heber City, I'm sure, so. And
We're in agreement.
they showed me their preliminary road configuration, and I don't know how long ago it was designed, but they want the road to go out to 40 eventually.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure
I
we'll
think-
work something
I think from a
out.
public safety standpoint for the schools,
Yeah,
you've got all
accessibility.
those homes that are east of the Forest Service now that would feed Daniel School, and I would think that anybody that lived in Wheeler Park would be thrilled to death to have the traffic come down there and drop their kids off and leave and go out on the road that goes up through me. I'm not here to protest the road, I just think it needs to be.
And I wasn't aware that I had drawn anything on your property, so I'm sorry.
Oh, it's all
But
right.
we'll take care of it, we'll figure it out. So.
Okay, so are you planning a crash gate in the meantime off of this other road like the school did?
There is no, we can put in whatever you want, Jersey barriers kind of thing, or
Well-
what would you like?
Well, they put a crash gate in because they wanted to be able to get the fire department in if there was a fire.
They didn't.
That one road would block up. They were
Yeah,
worried.
Heber City didn't say anything about that. They didn't, and so we've got the turnaround on the end of our road that allows those bigger vehicles, the emergency vehicles, to turn around and do their thing. They didn't say anything about branch. I mean, Heber can't
Right, right.
dictate
I was just,
anything. so-
yeah, I just wondered if it came up, but you probably haven't been that far yet.
No.
The fire department will bring that up.
So the last time that came up when Wasatch County Fire got involved, and I don't think they know about this yet.
Yeah,
So
that's what I'm thinking. It will come
we'll
up
get there.
later.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So this is gonna be a lot of fun, is what you're saying, potentially. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
No other questions? Okay.
Okay. Okay, so we have the application before us. I need a motion.
I haven't seen the application.
You need to see it? Here you
Yes,
go.
please. Thank you.
They're very artsy, so they're kind of hard to read. I apologize. I wish the font were darker.
Thank you.
I didn't do it.
You get one of them, Ryan? This is our town engineer.
Okay. I think we talked. Yeah, we talked. I'm out, sorry. I'm out. I apologize. They're just really big. It's part of that artsy card.
So they was on the agenda at Heber City, and Heber City sent him to talk to us before he goes down that road. So like he says, this is preliminary. We accept the application, and they move forward with all the hookups, doing all their designs, going through the road work, doing all that. If the town will accept the application, otherwise they won't even go through that process.
Have you purchased the property?
They're still in the process of purchasing it. And a lot of it depends on CCNRs and meetings we're having now and all that. So, and to be honest with you, whether Heber City will allow us to connect to their sewer. They technically have to, according to state law, but there might be some pushback,
But
so.
it's full right now, so
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
that's what they said.
Down the
Whatever
road,
that means.
they've got to fix something, so we'll see.
When do you plan on building this? What's the,
It depends. It depends on when the funding comes through, and there's a lot of factors. Ideally, what they would like to do, if they could get everything resolved quickly, is they would like to start in the spring, but I don't know that there's any way they're gonna be able to do that. That's always the best time, start in the spring. If they take about 9 to 10 months to build, there's less snow and everything that the contractors have to deal with. So it just depends on all these factors.
sooner than later?
Yeah. It's my understanding that there is a need, is what they're
Well, my
saying.
understanding is there's a great need.
Okay, so we'll,
This is where the trailer.
everybody get a chance to review that?
So this is just saying
You
we'll
know,
go
says
up
something
and look
about
at it, it's not approving anything.
It's not approving anything, well, we're accepting their application for conditional use. And like I said, it's allowed in the RA5 zone. Churches as a conditional use, so all the details will be worked out. They still will conform to all of our codes with the night light. The other church we had built, there was some concern about the neighbors with the lights being on at night. They turn off at 10.
Yeah,
So they're on
they
a
can
time
put them
where
on
they,
10.
yeah, they just we'll just turn them off. So they're really good to work with the neighbors. It's not the church's first rodeo.
I know that you guys are excellent to work with and great neighbors, but it just feels too big for that particular dead end area. And having been defined as RA5, which I understand that you can have a conditional use in that area, but it just doesn't seem to fit in that area. So I think it's too big. It's too much asphalt, too big of a building. So I'll make a motion to deny the application.
Okay, have a motion. Is there a second? Seeing none, motion dies for lack of a second. Do I have an alternative motion? More questions?
Well, it'd be nice if Heber City could work the road issue out with this gentleman here.
Yeah, but they won't even talk to him until he's been here and got this done.
Okay, then I'd make a motion to approve the application.
Have a motion to approve the application, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion and a second, discussion on the motion.
I think all we're doing is saying we'll accept it. They still have to jump through the hoops with the homeowners association, Heber City, and back to the planning commission, so.
Well, the homeowners association
This is
won't be,
totally
won't be an issue for,
Not for us,
Right.
but I'm saying, but,
yeah, whatever they work out is,
but if that doesn't work out, then
right,
it probably doesn't need to come back to us.
yeah, but probably won't.
So, I guess, given those conditions, I feel comfortable.
Okay. Any more discussion? Okay. Have a motion and a second to accept the application, all in favor? 3. Those opposed? 2. 1 abstain?
I'm trying to see whether that'll let this die or if it'll have to go to another motion or not.
It will die. Needs
I
4.
have to start over.
Needs 4. So motion,
Call for a revote.
okay, I'll call for a revote. Those in favor? Those opposed? Okay, motion carries with 4. Accept your application.
Great.
Okay. All right, now we'll move on. If you need us to come and talk to Heber City, yeah, we'll be glad. We met with Tony on the last one. There was some pushback about that very issue, about the road, and I don't know that the council ever heard about it. I think it stayed in the planning office. So I don't know that the council ever did hear about it. Yeah. Which, you know, council should probably do the rest of that kind of stuff, but.
Something that big.
Yeah.
Industry.
Yeah. Okay, so you'll be back in touch with us in design when you get the preliminary done. And
Right.
I know they've already done the soil samples. Called in Blue State for that.
Yeah, we got the geotech, we've done all that preliminary legwork.
Okay, super. Okay, Brian, are you collecting applications?
Yes, I'll get with him here in a minute.
Okay. Did you give him your card?
Yes.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
item number 3. You guys ready? Okay, I'm gonna turn this podium over to them. They're gonna ask you guys some questions on a lot. Are you looking to buy or have bought?
Looking to buy.
Looking to buy.
Do you want me to go?
Yes, please. And then is there a... Anything you're on the board?
He has a packet
Oh.
of information that we found. So it seems daunting, but it's really just the information we found, so.
Just right. Okay.
Any extra ones?
That's it, that's all.
Sorry about
That's all
that.
she wrote.
I can give you my copy if you.
Well, you gotta go for the button.
Okay, so we understand that the burden of proof is on with the applicant, so if you'll bear with me, I want to lay out all the information that I found in this process, and I'm guessing a lot of this, some of this stuff won't be new information for you, so just bear with me while I build my case. So with the beginning, to our knowledge, the history of the property is as follows. Excuse me, the lot was acquired by Ralph Hilton in October 11th, 1977 as a 10-acre piece. That's page 1.
Where is this property?
3400 South Big Hollow Road. Then on December 29th, 1983, the entire 10-acre piece was put into the Farmland Assessment Act, also known as Greenbelt. That's on page 2. On June 19th, 1986, the back acreage of 8.54 acres was warranty deeded from Ralph Hilton to himself and his wife, and it was mortgaged through the Zions First National Bank for $84,500. That's pages 3 and 4. On September 15th, 1987, the lots were 2 separate pieces with their own county IDs. One was 1.46 acres with a Wasatch County ID of OWC 2019-1, and the other was 8.54 acres with a Wasatch County ID number of OWC 20294-4. They were identified separately for the Greenbelt application. That's page 5. 1987 was the first year these 2 lots were taxed separately, and that's in pages 6 through 9. I got all of that from the county assessment office, and you can see that it was identified as 2 separate lots with the county ID on pages 6 and 7, and then the taxation of both of those are on 8 and 9. And I highlighted the areas to identify pages. So at the time that these 2 lots were created from the 10-acre piece, it appears that this property was split down the middle between RA2 and RA3 zones. According to Travis Hare at the county planner's office, these did not identify how many acres each lot had to be at this time. Both RA2 and RA3 were designated as 1-acre zones. Therefore, it wasn't against code to have a 1-acre piece for a home in that area at that time. And that's on pages 10 and 11. So then, this lot would fall under the non-conforming lot and structure in the Danieltown Code, from what we understand. Page 12 says, quote, non-conforming structure means, this is a definition, a structure that legally existed before its current zoning designation, and because the subsequent zoning changes does not conform to the setback, height restrictions, or other regulations governing the use. And then number 3 of that definition, non-conforming lot of record, a lot or parcel of land lawfully established and maintained but which no longer conforms to the width area recommendations of requirements of the zone in which it is located. And then under section 8.22.08, this is all under the Danieltown Code. A non-conforming lot of record is determined by making one or more of the following findings. The lot was created prior to the enactment of zoning and has not decreased in size since the creation of the said lot. And 2, the lot was created legally under the standards existing at the time of its creation, which I think we've just determined. Excuse me. Now, we know that the home was built in 1978, and it became a rental to several long-term tenants in approximately 1997, when the homeowner moved out to another place in Lake Creek area. And on page 13, that is a letter from the sellers stating what, their disclosures, and that's where I got that information. So with this proposal to you, we hope to maintain the current house as a rental and build our dream home on the back piece. We would like to recognize the front lot as 1.46 acres with the house currently on it, as it has been situated for 31 years. We ask that you would allow that piece to be grandfathered in, recognizing it as a legal lot. This will do 2 things. First, it would allow us to be able to maintain a greenbelt status on the back lot of 8.54 acres. Second, we would be able to rent the house as it has been rented for the past 21 years. In this way, we hope to be able to provide a low-income housing unit and help with the requirement for the state. And according to the county assessor's office, a property can be on greenbelt if it has a total of 5 contiguous acres being utilized as agricultural. If we are required to change these lots to 2 5-acre pieces, we would no longer be able to qualify for the greenbelt status for either of the lots, since 1 acre has to be designated for the house, whether it's utilized entirely or not. Bottom line, we need 6 acres to qualify for greenbelt with the house. So the last couple of pages was kind of the next step in the process, depending on how you vote on this, would be that we would request a lot line adjustment where we would maintain the lot sizes and adhere to all current Danieltown Code requirements. And with the lot line adjustment, it would allow and provide access to the back acreage. We would build a road to Danieltown standards. As you can see, the home, this is an approximate tool. I didn't know how else to show you, but it says we have approximately 75 feet from the edge of the property on the north side to where the home's at. And so there's sufficient room for the 50-foot easement that would be required and 12 feet from the house to the road per code. So I don't know if we want to, if you have questions regarding the first half of it, I don't know.
Okay. Awesome, thank you. You have any questions for her?
Was that 75 feet you talked about, was that on the south side of the home or the north?
North side. North side, and on page, let me just see. Page 15, you can see the little green markers. This is off of the Wasatch County plat map. That's the tool that they provided, but we did go out and measure it too by hand, so it's approximately 75 feet there.
That's from the north lot line to the house?
Yeah, well, there's a fence there, and as far as I understand, according to the surveyor, that's the line of the property, it's on the fence, so yeah, that's what we're going off of.
So we're creating a flag lot on the back lot, is that correct?
You're not,
I,
Created in
no, the answer is no,
no,
I
because
guess.
it's, yeah, we're just maintaining.
They're building a road to the standard, they're building a
Yeah,
road.
so it's not a
Yeah.
flag lot. I mean, I guess if you look at it, sure, it might look like a flag, but it's not in.
That's not
in
what
the-
we're